What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 15, Fellowship of the Spear, because J.R.R. Tolkien's in this one, kind of like the Raiders of the Lost Ark when they had George Lucas. Well, now it's J.R.R. Tolkien, and, he does provide a bit of, I guess, insight for the team in this episode. I swear they must have gone up to him and was like, Mr. Tolkien, could you tell us about your time in the war? Oh, well, let me tell you, it's very strange. I was suffering from some fever, and all of a sudden these guys took me to a futuristic ship, and it was something else. That's good. We're using that for our show. It sounds like our show. Isn't that interesting? But anyway, but this one is very much a very good progression of the story. First it kicks off very interestingly because we see the team goes to the vanishing point where they know the Legion is hiding because Rip knows. The one thing about this scene that I will say doesn't make a whole lot of sense is that you'd think Thawne would have something in place, like really high-tech security system or something along those lines to keep the spear really, really safe. But ultimately all he has is like this weird obelisk-looking thing that is just, I don't know, it's just a normal obelisk as far as I can tell. It blocks bullets, but that's about it. Jax goes up to it, turns it into jelly beans using his transmutation powers. I don't know, it just seemed way too easy for them to get the spear and then leave without any problems. But of course, it doesn't end there. But we see that once they've got the spear together, they realize, because Roy burns it with fire, because Lord of the Rings, there's an inscription written on it that says, begun by blood undone, or something along those lines. It's like the Pirates of the Caribbean thing with the gold. So they realize that because of that, it was given its power because of the blood of Christ, so the blood of Christ must be the only thing that can destroy it. And so their first thought is, let's go to the crucifixion. And I was wondering what was going to happen with this, because as a Christian, I do have to wonder what exactly are they going to do with this story. Are they going to actually treat it like I believe it, or are they going to treat it as, no, he's just a man? Well, Rip Hunter, as soon as they suggest that, says, no, we can't go, we can't affect anything to do with the birth, the life, or the death of Jesus Christ. It's like, okay, I wonder if that's going to come back later, or if that's just something that they're just going to say, we don't want to go there with our story. The writers just said we're just going to treat that as like it's a moment in time that they're never going to touch. I don't know what it is, but I thought the reaction to it was pretty interesting. But I am wondering if they are at some point going to go to that moment in time. But they do realize that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in one of his books about a knight who supposedly had gone and gotten the blood of Christ at his burial ground and buried it somewhere. And so they're going to find it. While all this is happening, McRory is seeing Snart on the battlefield and just thinks it's another hallucination. But because he hits him, and on top of that we saw Damien Dark earlier saying, alright, it's time to do things my way, kind of figured that he is actually real, and on top of that I saw the previews that showed he was actually real. But it's very interesting because they actually pick him up before everything that happened with the legends. So I don't know at what point they picked him up. It's probably when he was still a villain, mainly. But the whole time, even when he was first showing up as a villain, he still had kind of a good side to him. So I find it very interesting that he's just completely evil. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But so he's talking to Mick, and he's trying to convince him to join back with him because these guys won't trust him. Well, as soon as they show up at the church where this knight is supposed to be buried, all of a sudden here comes Snart with Damien Dark and tells them, I'm here because Mick told me the plan. And so at that point, everybody's just like, I can't believe you told him, and they're really getting onto him. The only problem I have with this is that it's a little bit over the top, and Martin knows that Mick was thinking it was a hallucination. He knows that Mick's seen Snart in his mind before. And so saying that to a hallucination, it kind of does make sense, because, well, if I just say it to a hallucination, what does it matter? It's in my mind, so it's not like I'm actually telling anybody anything, right? Well, nobody really stands up for him. Jax in this episode is just completely, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know at what point they clashed or whatever, but Jax in this episode is the biggest asshole ever. Like, even at the end when Mick turns against them, Ray is at least like, but did he really, or did we ever trust him? We never truly treated him like a member of the team. But Jackson's the only one that's just like, I can't believe you do that, and just really really hateful towards Mick. And even Sarah, she's not against Mick, but she's definitely not stepping up to his case. She's just telling him to be quiet and just not, not now, Mick, and all of that stuff. And at this point, I mean, you kind of can figure out where it's going from here. But it just seemed unnecessarily hateful towards Mick. And that, it's just kind of forcing this whole, oh, he's going to help them in the end. He's going to betray the league, or the Legends at the end of this. And that's ultimately what it leads to. They end up getting into the middle of the battle. There's a scene, and I'll talk about some of the war stuff later, because I think that's what really made this episode pull through. But manage to cease fire in the middle of this war, so they get out there, they find the blood, but Damien and Snart show up, and then Snart convinces Mick, hey, they don't really trust you. So Mick takes the spear, goes to them, and then Thawne gets them all out of there right before Snart starts the war up again. And so now they have to get out, but unfortunately, while Nate is running, he gets knocked through the air by a mortar blast. The blood gets knocked out of his hand, and then it gets shot and is destroyed. So there goes their only way of destroying the spear. Like I said, unless they head back to the crucifixion, which I don't know what they're going to play with there. I don't know if they're going to do anything interesting there. Or it could be they find some other way to destroy it, like, I don't know, the spear can also destroy the spear type thing. But ultimately, it leads to the end of the episode, which is, and I thought it was kind of interesting because Nate's just like, what if they don't know how to use it? And then we cut to the Legion as Malcolm's walking in with the book that will tell them how to use it. So it was almost like, oh yeah, that's a really good point, Nate. Oh, Malcolm's got the book. Oh yeah, never mind. And so it ends with Malcolm chanting some words that causes the spear to start working. The spear creates some sort of blast, and now the next episode is called Doom World. So yeah, the Legion of Doom have taken over. So it's very interesting to see just all of this build up, and now I feel like what I think is the final 2 episodes of the season, because I don't know, on IMDb there are only 2 episodes left. I don't know if that's true or not, but if this is the final 2 episodes, it's definitely a very good setup for the final 2 episodes. The Legion of Doom have rewritten reality now as the Legion of Doom world, and the Legends now have to go up against that, and it's a good setup. All this in this episode is a really, really good setup for it. So there were some problems that could have taken away from it. The clear hatred towards Mick that's only setting up for him to betray them. The fact that at the beginning Eobard Thawne is just completely off his guard. There's nothing in place that helps him find the spear. It's way too easy for them. But ultimately, like I said, what pulls it through is a lot of this war stuff. They treat it with a lot of respect. Not just the ceasefire at the end. I'll talk about that in a second. But even like just the brutality of it, and just watching some of the characters react to it, watching Amaya have to see this stuff, they treat it with a lot of respect, and just you see the effect it's having on her specifically, but just the effect that it's having on a lot of them. It's not really a fun episode. It's not an episode where they're making a lot of jokes and it's a lot of funny stuff going on. No, for the most part, it's very solemn, and it's very story based. It's not joking around with each other. So I think they handled that part of it really well. They didn't make it one big joke, and they didn't, Ray even is mostly the Joker. He's the one that's cracking up everything. And aside from this one scene where he goes inside of Cannon and starts laughing like a little, just like gremlin. Aside from that, I mean, the jokes weren't really in this episode. There was a lot of serious moments. And then, of course, I mean, the scene where Rip is telling them to cease fire. Not just because it was the Lord of the Rings speech that Aragorn gives in the 3rd movie. It is not this day. This day we fight. I don't know. As soon as he started giving the speech, I'm like, oh, yes. But just what he was saying as well, it was very emotional. And the music and the way he delivered it, and then watching them, bring out the white flag as they were getting their wounded off the battlefield, all of it was really well done. And it was an emotional scene. It made me tear up a little bit. So they handled all of that war stuff really well, and I think overall that's what really pulled this episode through. You know, the obviously the story progression, everything that happened with the spear and the Legion and Mick and all of that stuff. That stuff was very interesting, no doubt. But the war stuff made me overlook any problems that I had, any of the little issues with the story or plot holes that I had. I think the war stuff just really pulled through in the end and just made this a really, really, really good episode for this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to all end. Obviously, it's going to be the Legends versus the Legion of Doom, and the Legion of Doom have all the power right now. So I guess my main question in all of this is there going to be another death on our hands, you know, for Mick or for Snart again? Who knows? But I am kind of curious to see, are they going to go kind of a stereotypical route where they don't trust Mick and he knows it, and so he decides to turn against them, but in the end he realizes that this isn't for him. You know, he has changed. He has become something more than just a thug. He has become an actual member of the team, and so is he going to sacrifice himself, or is he just going to, I guess, save the day in the end somehow? I don't know. Probably because it kind of feels like part of a lot of this season really has been a lot of focus on Mick. Obviously, everybody on the team gets focused because it's about the team in general. It's not just about one character. But Mick has gotten a lot of the story and character building this season, where everybody else has just been mainly story building. You know, we're getting more story for them, whether it's Nate and Amaya, whether it's Ray, and actually he hasn't really got much. But you know, Sarah and the captaincy, Jackson, Martin, and what's going on with Martin's daughter. A lot of them have gotten mainly story development. Mick has actually been growing as a character this season, so he's been the one that's been getting a little bit more focus. So I feel like this ending is a bit more his ending for the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with it, and hopefully it's going to be good. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Legends of Tomorrow, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.